Tonight on PBS News Weekend, Israeli forces withdraw from a key corridor in Gaza, while in Lebanon they continue to hold territory where they say Hezbollah remains a threat. Then, why a painful condition affecting millions of women can take years to diagnose. And we explore how the reliably red state of Utah is going green.
Folks are very aware intimately of the challenges that we have with air quality, both in terms of our health and also for what it means in terms of the beauty of this state.
Major funding for PBS News Weekend has been provided by the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions. And friends of the NewsHour. This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Ali Rogan. John Yang is away. Israel pulled its forces from a key Gaza corridor today, which it used as a military zone during the war, cutting off the north of the Gaza Strip from the south. The withdrawal is part of a fragile ceasefire deal with Hamas. Drone footage revealed the scale of destruction at the Netzarim corridor. People can be seen sifting through debris, carrying bodies, and making their way home. Meanwhile, on Israel's northern front inside Lebanon, its forces there have already missed a deadline to withdraw, and concerns are mounting they may stay past February 18th, a second deadline to pull out. Simona Foltine is on the ground at the Lebanese border.
This is Yarun, one of several Lebanese border villages still under Israeli control. Near the roadblock erected by the IDF, I met Mohammed Shaheen, the village chief. He's a dual Lebanese-American citizen who lived in California for almost 2 decades.
We are at the main entrance of Yarun. This is the east side of Yarun. The Israelis are in this side. We have few standing house. I guess they want to destroy them before they leave.
Every day, he and other villagers watch as the IDF demolishes more homes, some owned by American citizens like Shaheen.
They usually put the explosives. We can see them. Everybody can see them. They're visible. Putting explosives next to the houses, and by sunset, they bomb them. Yeah, they do 3, 4 houses, 5 houses sometimes at a time. Now, if you stay later, you'll see them. You'll see them yourself.
We don't have to wait long. From afar, we film a group of Israeli soldiers entering a home. Soon after, it's set on fire. It all happens in plain sight of the Lebanese army and UN peacekeepers.
The Israeli army is stationed in those houses over there, just a few hundred meters away. And when we pointed our zoom lens at them a little while ago, they fired warning shots in our direction. So it's pretty clear that they don't want to be filmed.
A third of Yarun's inhabitants are Christian. The historic church now lies in ruins, as does Shaheen's 100-year-old family home. He took this video a few days back when he briefly returned with the Lebanese army. The IDF says it's still clearing villages of Hezbollah's weapons and dismantling the group's tunnel infrastructure, which it says are embedded in civilian homes. People here see it differently.
No, there's nobody in Yarun. There's nobody there. They just want to destroy everything. They don't want people to come back and live.
How many houses have been destroyed in Yarun since the ceasefire came into effect?
Since the ceasefire, I'd say about between 200, 250 houses. Yeah.
We looked at satellite images to verify Shaheen's allegations of Israeli demolitions in Yarun during the ceasefire period. Between December 1st and February 2nd, at least 143 houses were destroyed. There are also reports that the IDF has been uprooting Lebanon's precious trees. Yarun was famous for its ancient oak forest.
The size of it is 600,000 square meter. Yeah, they took them all off. They took them into Israel. They brought heavy machineries, took them all out, load them on trucks.
The forest is seen here to the west of the village. Satellite images show that since January, 71% of the trees, or 120 acres, have been removed. And Yaroun is no exception. Driving along the border, many villages are destroyed or remain inaccessible.
So we're on our way now to another village called Blida. We just spoke to some civilians who told us that Blida is still occupied by the Israeli army and they're not allowing civilians to return to their homes.
We arrive at a Lebanese army checkpoint. I ask the soldiers if it's safe to go on. Down the road, we come onto another roadblock and a warning. The Israeli army has killed more than 20 Lebanese in the past 2 weeks as they attempted to return home. Despite the risk, some remain undeterred.
I went to my brother's house to reassure him that it's still standing. What we can do, hopefully, soon we'll be able to return.
Amid the delays, the anger mounts.
This is our land. We want to go back.
Zainab Naim blames the international community for not pressuring the Israeli army to withdraw in line with the agreed timetable.
All the countries have agreed with them at the expense of the people. They are occupying and they are talking. The ceasefire was 60 days, then it became another 18. And then what? We want our houses back. Our houses and our land are our dignity.
Israel says that Lebanon hasn't lived up to its side of the deal. As the IDF gradually pulls back, it's leaving behind a trail of destruction, similar to what we've seen in Gaza. This is Ter Harfa. The main street is unrecognizable. Qasim Hussein Haider is the town's mayor.
As you can see, 90 to 95% of the houses in the village have been destroyed and are uninhabitable.
The IDF left Ter Harfa on January 27th, but the death toll keeps rising. In the village cemetery, a funeral is underway for Abbas Haider and his 2 young daughters. They and another child were killed in an explosion the day before. It occurred here, inside the family home.
It happened within 5 minutes of him arriving home. He parked his car and entered, then there was an explosion.
Abbas had only just begun to rebuild his house. The mayor accuses the IDF of booby-trapping it.
The way the Israeli enemy is infiltrating other areas to kill and bomb, they can easily infiltrate from the southern areas.
The IDF is due to withdraw completely on February 18th. No matter the destruction, the Lebanese displaced from their land have vowed to return.
The moment they leave, people of Yaroun will come back, even if they live in tents.
For PBS News Weekend, I'm Simona Foltin at Lebanon's border with Israel.
We reached out to the IDF for their response to this report, and they said, in part, they act in strict accordance with international law and make all feasible efforts to mitigate harm to civilians during operational activity. They added, quote, "It must be emphasized that Hezbollah unlawfully embeds its military assets into densely populated civilian areas and cynically exploits civilian infrastructure for terror purposes." As uncertainty grows about the next phase of an Israel-Hamas ceasefire deal, Arab leaders are preparing to meet to discuss the future of the region. Egypt's foreign minister said nearly a dozen countries will gather later this month at the request of Palestinian leaders. During the Arab summit, leaders will analyze what they say are escalating developments in Gaza, including recent remarks by President Trump about possible plans to, quote, take over the Gaza Strip. Tonight, President Trump becomes the first sitting president to attend a Super Bowl. Mr. Trump left his beachside resort in Palm Beach, Florida, to fly to New Orleans for the big game. Ahead of his travels, he kept a presidential tradition of sitting down for an interview, during which he touted his collaboration with Elon Musk and government cost-cutting.
Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. And, you know, the people elected me on that.
Security in the Big Easy is already tight after last month's deadly Bourbon Street attack, but will be even more so with the president's attendance. About 2,000 law enforcement officers and hundreds of National Guard members are on duty for tonight's festivities. Workers at one of the country's most well-known watchdog agencies, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB, have been instructed to stop all work. The announcement came via an email to staff Saturday night. The newly installed head of the Bureau, Russell Vought, also said he plans to zero out the agency's funding for the next quarter. The watchdog was created in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis to enforce financial laws and protect consumers from unfair, deceptive, or abusive practices. Elon Musk has vowed to, quote, delete the Bureau. Dive teams will comb the Potomac River this week in search of smaller pieces of wreckage tied to last month's deadly air disaster in Washington, D.C. The National Transportation Safety Board has said it has now pulled out all the major pieces of the Black Hawk helicopter involved in the crash. That wreckage will be brought to a nearby NTSB facility for further analysis. 67 people were killed when the Black Hawk and an American Airlines plane collided. The cause of the crash may not be known for months. Still to come on PBS News Weekend, we look into a painful condition impacting tens of millions of women around the world, and how the red state of Utah is embracing renewable energy and going green.
This is PBS News Weekend from the David M. Rubenstein studio at WETA in Washington, home of the PBS NewsHour, weeknights on PBS.
1 in 10 women of reproductive age around the world suffer from a condition known as endometriosis. It's an illness where tissue similar to the uterine lining grows outside of that organ in places it's not supposed to be. It can lead to infertility, debilitating pain, and financial hardship. For our series Unequal Treatment, I recently spoke with Dr. Laura Homewood, a gynecologic surgeon at UVA Health, about how the medical community is working with patients to learn more about this disease. Dr. Homewood, thank you so much for joining us. We mentioned that it sometimes takes years to get a diagnosis. What is the average patient's time to get a diagnosis, and why does it take so long?
The famous statistic around endometriosis is that it can take an average of 7 years and seeing 7 different doctors before a woman can get her definitive diagnosis of endometriosis. Despite it being a very common diagnosis, it's difficult to diagnose because you have to actually have surgery to get a tissue diagnosis. And so there's no easy blood test, there's no easy screening imaging that may be able to be found in other diseases. But also, some providers aren't good at catching it. They're very vague symptoms that can mimic other diseases, and that can lead to big delays for women, unfortunately.
We spoke to one patient advocate who said she went nearly a decade before she was diagnosed and experienced tremendous uncertainty, high medical bills. In the interim, let's take a listen to what she had to say.
I was very young when I first started going through this in my young 20s, and I didn't have a lot of extra money. And then as time even went on, some of the surgeries were not covered by my insurance. So I had to pay out of pocket to have surgery. Endometriosis has a huge financial burden and impact on the individual who's suffering and their families.
Do you see a lot of patients with stories like hers?
Absolutely. I hear this type of story almost daily in my clinic. Endometriosis has a lot of impacts on a patient's life. And you have to consider all the different costs that are going on. Not only is there the financial cost to the patient in the copays, in the medication costs, in surgery, and all of those personal out-of-pocket costs, there's also a huge cost to the health system in the increased utilization by these patients. Like I mentioned, these patients will see multiple doctors before they're able to get their diagnosis, and that really adds up over time. There's some data that we have that suggests that a typical woman will spend about $4,000 to $5,000 between their out-of-pocket costs and insurance coverage in a single year. However, a patient with endometriosis, they're looking at about $14,000 per year. So there's a lot of costs financially. You also have to think about the opportunity cost of having this disease. So that's the loss of the potential gain while these patients are, let's say, bedridden in pain for a couple days each month during their menses. They, miss work, have to call out. Maybe they're not being promoted at the same scale as other patients who don't have to miss work.
There's also been issues with fertility. Can you tell us about those as well?
Unfortunately, there's an association between infertility and endometriosis. And so if you're not able to get pregnant naturally, oftentimes these women have to seek the assistance of infertility specialists and assisted reproductive technologies, for example, in vitro fertilization. A general cycle of that can cost anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 out of pocket if your insurance isn't covering it.
What needs to change in terms of how experts, how doctors, how researchers think about and treat this disease?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, there's no great way to easily diagnose this disease. And so I think there needs to be a lot more research in the field of endometriosis to get a non-invasive diagnostic test. The other thing is patient awareness. Some women don't know that it's not normal to have such painful periods, or it's not normal to miss school and have to miss work because of the painful periods.
And certainly, I'm sure part of this is doctors needing to be more inclined to listen to their patients when they bring up severe period pain.
I hear that all the time, that patients say, oh, my doctor just said, oh, it's just your period, take some ibuprofen, when in fact it's so much more than that and much more complicated. I think it's difficult for doctors to have a very intense and long conversation about chronic pain in a 10 or 15 minute video slot with their patient. You need time and effort to really get to the bottom of the problem. And I think some providers just don't have that time or that expertise.
I want to be sure to ask you also, what sort of treatments are available for this?
So there are a lot of different treatments, as simple as birth control pills, different types of birth control that exist that manipulate the hormones in your body so that your endogenous, or the hormones that your body naturally makes, aren't stimulating the endometriosis. We're actually trying to suppress it, like hormones. There are a few new medications that are on the market that help with pain associated with endometriosis. However, they're extremely expensive. In addition to medications and hormones, we also have surgery as a management option. So not only is surgery diagnostic, but if you had a surgery with a surgeon trained to excise that endometriosis or to remove it at the time of surgery, that's also therapeutic.
Dr. Laura Homewood, gynecologic surgeon at UVA Health. Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
Earlier this week, President Trump suspended a program to expand the country's network of electric vehicle chargers. It's his latest in a series of efforts to undo Biden-era policies encouraging EV adoption. But in some parts of the country, EVs and other low-carbon technologies are becoming more popular, not because of government policies, but because they make economic sense. That's what I found when I recently visited Utah, a politically red state where some residents are going green.
It's usually really beautiful this time of year.
Rob Sorensen is a father of 4 and a self-described middle-of-the-road conservative.
I would describe myself as leaning more on the conservative side, but very, very nuanced as well.
Born and raised in Utah, he's worked in insurance here for more than 2 decades. But you'd be forgiven for thinking he was a professional fiddle player. That's not the only thing about him that's surprising. Despite his conservative politics, he's become a fan of electric vehicles, or EVs, which studies show tend to be more popular with left-leaning consumers.
We never in a million years thought that an EV car would be something we would own, just because every time we would look at an electric car, it just seemed so expensive.
But that all changed the day he found a fully electric Chevy Bolt for the right price.
And we ended up picking the car up for $10,000 with 15,000 miles on it. I was blown away.
The cost made an EV far more attractive, but it wasn't just about the price. An added bonus, it's much easier on the environment, and Utah already has some of the nation's worst air quality.
Our family is very into outdoor activities, hiking, biking, and different things like that. So we are very conscious of trying to take care of the environment and our surroundings.
Sorensen is far from alone here in solidly Republican Utah. EV registration rates in this state slightly exceeded the national average in the most recent data from 2023.
Folks are very aware intimately of the challenges that we have with air quality, both in terms of our health and also for what it means in terms of the beauty of this state.
Josh Kraft leads government relations and public affairs for Utah Clean Energy, a nonprofit organization that advocates for green technology.
There is, I think, a real understanding that your vehicle choice matters, and that if you can move to a zero emissions, zero tailpipe emissions vehicle, that's going to help everybody.
That's a mindset shared by Republican strategist Mike Murphy, who worked in national Republican politics for decades. Today, he leads the EV Politics Project, which hopes to close what he calls the needless partisan divide over EVs. For years, he said the biggest obstacle for many consumers like Rob Sorensen was high prices, but that's becoming less of a stumbling block.
With all the EVs coming off lease, there's a huge supply of used electric vehicles in the market, which has depressed prices.
As those prices continue to drop, Murphy believes the political divide over this technology will start to diminish too.
The only thing they fight over is environmental impact. That is important to Democrats. It is an off-putting thing to Republicans. Now, the price tag appeal, particularly in the used market for EVs, is overcoming some of that dogma.
We built the house in 1991.
For many Utahns we met, environmentally friendly choices are less a political issue and more about lifestyle. Lee Goodrich lives on the road to Utah's West Desert. For years, he worked at a nearby coal plant, but when he built his own home, he had sustainability in mind. Its solar panels, double-insulated walls, and south-facing solarium are designed to heat the whole house.
This house is energy efficient, it's energy independent. Why was that important to you?
By being energy efficient, you're using less resources. You're making better use of what you have. I've always felt that it's good to be a good steward of the land. If more people did this, that would mean less power plants would have to be built. Even though I worked at one, hey.
But he told us he's not yet sold on EVs. He prefers diesel cars for their fuel efficiency and longevity.
My vehicle can be sent to the scrap yard and reused. You can't reuse the lithium batteries. You can't reuse some of the materials that the car's made with, very little of it.
Goodrich says, like this Trump administration, he favors an all-of-the-above approach to energy, including fossil fuels and renewables, though many experts warn continued use of fossil fuels drives climate change. But Goodrich believes that people will make green choices, like he does, when it makes sense for them.
That's the problem I have with these people that I call them the so-called environmentalists, is that it's all got to be one way.
But across Utah, we found there are signs that this state is actively getting into the renewable energy business.
About an hour outside of Salt Lake City, the Electron Solar Farm houses 1 square mile of solar panels and produces 80 megawatts of power a day. It provides electricity to almost all the government buildings in Salt Lake City, Park City, 2 ski resorts, and a university.
It's really amazing. I don't think I ever really understood the scope and scale of
Christine Michael is a renewable energy entrepreneur whose company developed Electron.
The environment is fantastic now for green entrepreneurs in Utah.
She says the state has welcomed renewable projects to meet industry demand, triggered a few years ago by the construction of a massive data center here for Meta, then called Facebook.
They want to have 24/7 energy, renewable energy, powering their facilities. And that really proliferated a lot of the solar development in the state of Utah.
Rob Sorensen's family got in on that solar boom too. They installed panels on their roof a few years ago and said the steep investment has paid off. Their monthly electric bill has been smaller ever since. And even though we could tell Rob Sorensen likes his instruments unplugged, he's gone electric just about everywhere else around the house.
Our lawnmowers, our weed whackers, everything we've upgraded to electric. And they're not only clean, they're extremely powerful.
He still thinks back to when he was reluctant to dive into the EV market. He told us he bought into an incorrect argument that they're just as dirty because sometimes their chargers are powered by fossil fuels.
The more I look into it, I realize I didn't know what I was talking about. The thing you have to understand is, well, how much coal? How much coal did it take to drive your 250 miles in your EV car?
That's a question Sorensen believes more and more Utah residents may be asking in the years to come.
And that's our program for tonight. I'm Allie Rogan. For all of my colleagues, thanks for joining us. Have a good week.
Major funding for PBS News Weekend has been provided by the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions. This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
You're watching PBS.